Okay. CCUS from an emitter's perspective. He's the general director at Yara Schlaug in Zeeland, here in the south of the Netherlands. He's also chairman of the board of Yara Nederland since 2018. Please give him a big hand. Michael Schlaug.
Good afternoon, and I guess as being the first speaker after the break, I have to keep you all energized with the view of an emitter. So, who are we? As Yara Schlaug, we are the largest fertilizer complex in Western Europe. We make about 5 million tons of final products, mainly fertilizer products, but also about 1 million tons of AdBlue and other base chemicals. Our technology is basically based on 3 ammonia plants, so that makes us a large-scale gas consumer. In fact, we are the largest single gas consumer in the Netherlands, which puts us right into the limelight. With 2 BCM, of course, also in this Ukraine crisis, the question is, what are we going to do? How are we going to decarbonize? How are we going to improve? We have already done a lot since 1990. We have reduced about 60% of our CO2 equivalent emissions, but we still sit on about 3.3 million tons, of which 2.2 are pure CO2 coming from the process of the ammonia production. And this is where we want to start our decarbonization route, and we have defined 3 routes to do that. First is further optimization of our existing installations, which is partially renewal, but it is also applying new DNTO catalyst on our nitric acid production units. Electrification is part of that. And the second is CCS. About 800 tons, 800 kilotons per annum is still pure CO2, which we can liquefy, and that which we can make available as of 2025 for injection into the seabed. So we are ready. I hope the injection parties are ready as well. And the third step is switching over to green hydrogen. In fact, when we started our journey in 2018, we thought, obviously, we want to go to green, and we can, let's say, miss the step on blue. But it is not that easy, because the business case on green doesn't work for us for the time being. So we have to wait till the costs are coming down. That doesn't mean that we don't have to look at it. We have to accelerate based on the Ukraine crisis. But we need CCS as a first step to quickly decarbonize and to make significant steps, because 800,000 tons is massive. In comparison, we also have a 100 megawatt electrolyzer project, which will give about 100 kilotons of CO2 emission reduction. To convert our entire fleet of ammonia plants to green, we need 2.2 gigawatt electricity. So obviously, this is nothing we can achieve before 2030. So we need CCS. But how does the economics work? The energy transition costs money, and we are in a global competition as fertilizer production. That also means we can, of course, not simply make the calculation say, as higher the ETS costs, as more lucrative it is to switch. We also need to generate extra value, and from blue products or green products. That's what we are doing at this stage. And what we see is the market is developing now. We are actually creating the market, but that also means I need the blue products. Therefore, CCS needs to come fast. One other application that we believe is very interesting is the developing what we call ammonia for shipping fuel. Ammonia has, like hydrogen, a very high energy density, even higher than hydrogen. And we believe ammonia can be used for larger seagoing vessels as fuel in the future. And only if it is a small portion of ships that will be converted, that is a massive business opportunity. So for us, creating a business opportunity and decarbonization goes hand in hand. And in fact, If we do CCS as of 2025, we can actually have 700 kilotons of blue ammonia available. The 70 kilotons of green ammonia represents the 100 megawatt electrolyzer. That means by 2025 or 2026, we will be, let's say, we'll have converted about 40% of our ammonia production to green or blue products. That is a significant step, and the following step will be converting the entire front end to import of green hydrogen. So, what do we need to make this work? Well, we need partners, because we can't do it all on our own. We have already 4 CO2 liquefaction plants at site, which is producing liquid CO2 mainly for the beverage industry. So we know how to make CO2 available, but we are not the party that puts it into the ground. So we have discussed already about various projects, Aramis, Northern Lights, Portos. What I see as an emitter is the question, these are individual projects. One comes early with limited capacity. One project comes later with larger capacities. What I'm asking for is mainly a system approach. As said, we are ready as of 2025. So I can make it available. I need someone to take it. Why not combining the projects and doing volume swaps? May not be for the time being in the thought of all the consortium partners for the CO2 injection parties, but I think this is one of the steps that really needs to come. Of course, all the rest has been discussed before, whether it's the bilateral agreement, the free transfer of CO2, of course, with the right boundaries, that is clear. So that needs to come. And we are ready, and hopefully we can achieve, let's say, what is our target. Thank you.
Do you have time for a question, perhaps?
Yes, of course.
Everybody just walks off. You
Because
don't want to
we are
talk to me. No, please. I feel like a bit, everybody's optimistic. Of course, this is a CCUS conference, so I think most of the people here are optimistic. Are you optimistic?
I have to be optimistic.
Yes.
Because what is the alternative? Let's be honest. We're the largest gas consumer in the Netherlands. We're number 5 in CO2 emissions. We play a role in nitrogen deposition. And of course, we have a product that is needed worldwide, not only in the Netherlands, but the question comes up and say, okay, what is your future? What do you do? For me, decarbonization is absolutely vital. That will actually determine the future of this production facility.
Yeah. You talked about you need a level playing field on an international level.
Yes.
What is your international level? Is it Europe or is it the world?
Global.
Global.
We export about 50% of the products, let's say, outside the European Union.
Yeah, but so I think you look to Brussels for the CBAM, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, or?
Yes, that is one essential, let's say, element to it. But on the other hand, what we don't want to do is we are not going to put too much, let's say, pressure on European level, etc. Of course, we make our position clear. But on the other hand, let's say we have to play within the boundaries that are given. Yeah. Because we cannot expect that basically everything will be compensated or subsidized, because that is not a sustainable business. Yeah.
In the Netherlands, we have, on top of the ETS price, we have a CO2 charge.
Yes.
Which is going to increase even to 2030. Let's just say I'm a bit not so optimistic. Let's say I'll be the one today who is a bit more skeptical. I play the role. You said what you need. If 1 or 2 of the components don't come, the infrastructure doesn't come or whatever, you still have to pay the charge, you have to pay the ETS. What happens if you can't store your CO2, if you can't produce blue and later green? What happens to the company in the Netherlands?
Well, of course, we are putting that company at risk on long term. That is clear. I don't want to picture that, because that always creates a kind of scenarios. Well, jobs are at risk. Yes, they will be
sort
at risk, but the futures. No, that's
usually
not
called
all
blackmail. If
yes.
you say what's going to happen if not all the requirements are there. But isn't that the fact? That then
It is
companies
on
will
the-
scale
on the long-
down?
On the long term, that will be the fact. But let's also see the gas prices in Western Europe have been, let's say, above, let's say, US levels for quite some years. That always put also extra stress on our production. That's the reason why our ammonia plants are so energy efficient, because it was a necessity to actually be competitive in the world market, because we had to be more efficient, we had to be more reliable in order to compensate for higher costs. We have come to a point where, of course, that doesn't work, not particularly not when the CO2 price is added on. But therefore, it is essential for us to create a market where basically there is a value for green or blue products.
Yeah.
And I'm sure without that, let's say a system that is purely based on subsidies will not fly. We need to create, at the end of the day, sorry to say, we all need to pay the bill.
Yeah.
Because for fertilizer, I cannot put all the costs to the farmer, because he will simply stop buying because he can't afford.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, we have to do it as consumers.
There's some NGOs saying, well, we don't need that big of a fertilizer producer in the Netherlands. What do you say?
Well, fertilizer is required, and I think the Ukraine crisis just shows it. The fertilizer exports from Russia are gone. The grain exports from Ukraine are gone. There will be a food crisis. I hope it's going to be a small one, but there will be a food crisis. So there is a need for our product.
But in the Netherlands, producing in the Netherlands.
We do it in the most efficient way.
Okay.
And the facilities are there. So it would be, to my mind, a crime not to continue with that.
Yeah. Final question, different topic maybe, but because of the high gas prices, you scaled down your production, I think?
We had, it is not only the high gas price, it's the volatility.
Okay. But what's your production? If you have 100%, what are you now at the moment?
For the time being, it is partially reduced, not on ammonia production, because basically also the fertilizer prices have increased, and there were periods where farmers said, well, I can't get hand on fertilizer, also in the Netherlands. So we had a dip in March, April, but for the time being, we are, let's say, at slightly reduced 10% reduced capacities.
So at 90%?
Yes.
Still? Okay, okay. Was just wondering. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Schlaug,